Welcome to the Rock Ramble. Every month we're going to have a look at a band's discography. Today we're going to look at Saxon, one of my local bands growing up. So here's a video I put together. If you like it, please like and subscribe. Stay safe and rock on. Let's have a look.
Welcome to the first Rock Ramble discography featuring my favourite band growing up in the early 80s, Saxon. Saxon are an English heavy metal band formed in Barnsley, England in 1975. As one of the leaders of the new wave of British heavy metal, they had 8 UK top 40 albums during the 1980s, including 4 UK top 10 albums and 2 top 5 albums. They had numerous hit singles on the UK singles chart and experienced success all over the world. Saxon's first debut studio album, named Saxon, was released in 1979. This first album didn't have the best of reviews, but this did not stop the band from supporting established bands such as Motorhead and Gillan, with a lineup of Biff Byford on vocals, Graham Oliver on guitar, Paul Quinn on guitar, Steve Dawson on bass, and Pete Gill on drums. This lineup stayed together for the first 4 albums. Wheels of Steel is the second studio album released in 1980. It was their first album to enter the UK Albums Chart, peaking at number 5, and was their highest charting album in the UK Albums Chart at the time. It went on to achieve gold status in the UK. The album produced 2 hit singles, the title track, Wheels of Steel, and the crowd favourite 747, Strangers in the Night. On August 16th, they earned a positive reception at the first Monsters of Rock festival at Donington Park, which only featured 6 bands on the bill. Headliners Rainbow, The Scorpions, April Wine, Riot and Touch. Strong Arm of the Law is the third studio album released in November 1980. 2 singles were issued of this album, the title track Strong Arm of the Law and the classic Dallas 1 PM. Sold-out tours of Europe and the UK followed as the album charted in several European countries. The band was also popular in Japan, where the single Motorcycle Man stayed in the charts for almost 6 months. Denim and Leather is the 4th studio album and was released in September 1981. This was the last album with the classic lineup of Saxon. It was also seen as the last of their trilogy of classic albums following Wheels of Steel and Strong Arm of the Law. Dedicated to their fan base, Denim and Leather is still popular today, with the title track, Denim and Leather, regarded as a classic metal anthem. By this time, the band was seen as the leaders of the new wave of British heavy metal movement, with future greats Iron Maiden and Def Leppard following close behind. Just as the band were to embark on the Denim and Leather tour, drummer Pete Gill left after injuring his hand. The band quickly replaced him with Nigel Glockler, formerly of Toyah. Headlining tours around the UK and a sold-out tour in Europe with support act Ozzy Osbourne, Saxon also played the Monsters of Rock festival again in 1982, becoming the first band to appear there twice. Power and the Glory is the 5th studio album released in March 1983 by Carrere Records. This is the first Saxon studio album with new drummer Nigel Glockler. The album peaked at number 15 in the UK Albums Chart and reached number 1 in the metal charts in Sweden, Norway, France and Germany, selling over 1.5 million copies worldwide. The Power and the Glory, Saxon's best-selling album at the time, saw them confirmed as one of the leading metal acts in Europe. The Power and Glory tour was an arena tour that began in Europe and was a huge success. The US leg of the tour, a special guest to Iron Maiden, along with Fastway, proved to be successful, and Saxon found themselves becoming a major act in the US. Crusader is the 6th studio album released on January 30th, 1984. The album offered an improvement over the previous year's Power and the Glory album from an overall songwriting perspective. The album sold over 2 million copies and reached number 1 in the metal charts in Sweden, France and Germany, and also charted in the US Billboard chart. The 1984 World Tour, the World Crusade, was a success both in Europe and in America, where they supported Motley Crue. Innocence Is No Excuse is the seventh studio album released in September 1985. It was the band's first album for EMI after a falling out with their previous label Carrere Records. Highlights of the album and singled-out songs: Back on the Streets, Rock and Roll, Gypsy and Broken Heroes. A huge sold-out world tour in support of the album followed. But tensions began to appear within the band, and by early 1986, original bassist Steve Dawson left the band.
Rock the Nations is the eighth studio album released in September 1986. The album is the first not to feature original bassist Steve Dawson. For the recording of this album, vocalist Biff Byford, who had begun his career as a singer and bassist, recorded all the bass parts in Dawson's place, and the album was graced with a rougher sound. Saxon hired bassist Paul Johnson to play for the band's European arena tour that followed. In the summer of 1986, Saxon headlined the Reading Festival and also toured the US. In 1987, the band took time off from the constant touring and recording. Drummer Nigel Glockler left the band and was replaced by Nigel Durham.
Destiny is the ninth studio album released in March 1988. The band found it hard to attain chart success in America. It is also the only studio album to feature the rhythm section of drummer Nigel Durham and bassist Paul Johnson. The album was the last studio album Saxon recorded for EMI, who dropped the band when the album sales were disappointing. During the tour for this album, Durham and Johnson were sacked and replaced by bassist Nibs Carter and a returning Nigel Glockler on drums, who finished the tour. In 1989 saw the release of Rock and Roll Gypsies, a live album recorded on an arena tour of Eastern Europe in 1988. But by 1989, the gigs at the big stadiums and arenas of Europe and the US were few and far between, and with no record deal, Saxon's future was uncertain. Solid Ball of Rock is the 10th studio album released in January 1991 on Virgin Records. 5 of its 11 tracks were written by new bassist Nibs Carter. The band eventually decided to embark on a European tour titled 10 Years of Denim and Leather, which proved to be a successful move as the band was re-established as a popular act. Forever Free is the 11th studio album released in May 1992. This album was produced by Biff Byford and Herwig Ersin. Iron Wheels was released as a single. The song was written about and dedicated to Byford's father, who worked in the coal mines of Yorkshire. Dogs of War is the 12th studio album released in September 1995. Dogs of War marked a period of changes for Saxon, both in their sound and lineup. The band began to flirt more intensely with hard rock and had on the album the last appearance of Graham Oliver as a member of the classic formation. Doug Scarrett, a longtime friend of drummer Nigel Glockler, replaced Oliver, and Saxon recorded a new music video for Dogs of War. They also recorded a cover of the Judas Priest song You've Got Another Thing Coming for a tribute album entitled A Tribute to Judas Priest, Legends of Metal. Unleash the Beast is the 13th studio album released in May 1997. It is their first studio album with Doug Scarrett on guitar. Unleash the Beast reached the top 100 in the charts in Sweden, Germany and Switzerland. In 1998, the band toured the US as well as playing the Brazilian Monsters of Rock. After relentless touring, drummer Nigel Glockler took time off to recover from a neck and shoulder injury and was temporarily replaced by Fritz Randau. Metalhead is the 14th studio album released in November 1999. It is the first album with Fritz Randau on drums. Nigel would still participate in the composition process of this record, more specifically in the introduction of this work. The album was praised in Germany and Saxon played at the Wacken Open Air Festival. where they later became a regular fixture. Saxon also headlined the first Bloodstock Festival in the UK. Killing Ground is the 15th studio album released in September 2001. Killing Ground was also released as a special digipack edition with a bonus disc featuring 8 classic re-recorded tracks, which would later appear in the live album Heavy Metal Thunder in 2012. This is the last album to feature Fritz Randau on drums, and he left the band in 2004. The album received positive reviews praising Saxon's heavy sound and catchy lyrics. Killing Ground demonstrated the band's ability to maintain their classic sound. In 2001, they again headlined the Wacken Open Air Festival and recorded the live DVD Saxon Chronicles in 2003. Lionheart is the 16th studio album released in September 2004. It is the only studio album featuring drummer Jörg Michael after Fritz Randau had left the band. Beyond the Grave was released as a single and a video. The album was re-released on 17th February 2006 in digipack format, limited to 10,000 copies. The album received positive reviews and the title track remains a fan favourite. The Inner Sanctum is the 17th studio album, released on 5th March 2007 in the UK. It is the first album by the band to feature drummer Nigel Glockler since 1997's Unleash the Beast. The Inner Sanctum received generally positive reviews from critics who commented that Saxon continued to do their legacy proud as they moved through their 3rd decade of recording activity. The Inner Sanctum is a welcome addition to this band's sizable discography and said to be Saxon's best album of the early 2000s. Into the Labyrinth, the 18th studio album, was released on the 9th of January 2009. It was made between tours in 2008 and written by the band in England and at Biff Byford's house in France. The first single, Live to Rock, was released on the 17th of October 2008. The album sold about 1,000 copies in the US in the week after its release. A proper physical 14th track is featured on the Japanese CD pressing released on the 3rd of February 2009. Previously it sold as a compressed, low bitrate download. The song Coming Home is originally from Saxon's Killing Ground album, in an electric version. The band also headlined the Wacken Open Air Festival in Germany. At the start of 2009, they toured the UK and also co-headlined with Motorhead. Call to Arms is the 19th studio album. It was released on the 3rd of June in Europe and the UK 2011. Deep Purple keyboardist Don Airey made a guest appearance on the album, and Saxon frontman Biff Byford stated that the band wanted to get back to their roots and aimed for a more working-class sound with the album. Saxon were also billed as special guests supporting Judas Priest at Hammersmith Apollo on the 26th of May 2012. And again, they also played the Download Festival 2012. Sacrifice is the 20th studio album and was released on the 1st of March 2013. In late January, drummer Nigel Glockler revealed that the band were getting ready to write a follow-up to the previous year's Call to Arms. About a month later, Glockler revealed that he and guitarist Doug Scarrett were convening at Glockler's home studio to write. In mid-August, the band released an update regarding the album. It was revealed that only a few vocals and other small things had yet to be completed. At the end of October 2012, the band announced via their official website the UK leg of the Sacrifice World Tour, which would support the new album. Battering Ram is the 21st studio album made by Saxon, released on October 16, 2015. Saxon frontman Biff Byford stated that the band worked on a new album in January, February and March of 2015. On August 1st, the band announced October 16th as the release date of Battering Ram. Biff Byford described the album as a mixture of rock and roll and heavy metal. Thunderbolt is the 22nd studio album released on the 2nd of February 2018. Frontman Biff Byford revealed they had written a song dedicated to Motorhead called They Played Rock and Roll following the death of frontman Lemmy on the 28th of December 2015. This song referenced their touring companionship on the 1979/1980 Bomber Tour. On the 7th of November 2017, the band confirmed the title and revealed the release date of the 2nd of February 2018, along with the track list, artwork and a short UK-European tour with Magnum and Rock Goddess supporting on select UK dates. On the 30th of November 2017, the new video, Thunderbolt, was released. The record, and especially the Motorhead tribute song on the album, They Played Rock and Roll, is especially dedicated to former Motorhead guitarist Fast Eddie Clarke, who died the previous month from pneumonia in January 2018, just a month before the Thunderbolt album's release. Carpe Diem is the 23rd studio album released in 2022. Carpe Diem was the band's highest charting record in the United Kingdom since 1983's Power and the Glory. It was also Saxon's highest charting album ever in several countries, including Germany, Switzerland and Austria. Carpe Diem also reached number 4 in the Finnish charts. The record received positive reviews from critics, calling it the most memorable record the band have put out in the last decade, commenting that the band are still going strong. On the 10th of March 2023, the band announced guitarist Paul Quinn's retirement from touring, although he would continue his work in the studio. Hell, Fire and Damnation is the 24th studio album released on the 19th of January 2024 through Silver Lining Music. It charted internationally across Europe, reaching the top 20 of the UK albums chart. Saxon promoted the album by joining Judas Priest and Uriah Heep on the European Metal Masters Tour in the spring of 2024, followed by a headlining North American tour, again with Uriah Heep. Former Diamond Head guitarist Brian Tatler became a permanent member of the band, joining the current lineup of Biff Byford on lead vocals, Doug Scarrett on guitars, Brian Tatler on guitars, Nibs Carter on bass, and Nigel Glockler on drums. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to The Rock Ramble on YouTube at youtube.com/rockramble, on X at @rockramble666, on TikTok at @ashrock.ramble, and on Instagram at @rockramble2025.